And so that's pretty much it. The only other thing I got is I got my air compressor down here. I rigged up a contactor box with a little Wi-Fi switch so that I can use my my Echo Dot that I have up in the garage to turn my air compressor on and off for me.
Oh, nice.
Okay, that's really cool. Alexa, turn on my air compressor. I love it.
That's exactly what I say.
You know, I
Chris,
never.
you have,
I was
Chris,
cleaning
you have
my.
a fire extinguisher down there?
Yeah, I got a fire extinguisher in my multi-purpose room.
I was cleaning my attic today, and I found an Echo Dot still in the box. I just figured out what I'm going to do with it.
Well, I have dots all over the place.
That's pretty cool.
Now I'm showing you my catch-all room.
Okay. We'll let him come back upstairs. So it must be nice to have a 2-floor shop. What do you think? And then have a 3-horsepower dust collection system. And I don't know.
Don't forget, he's a bachelor.
Yeah. Right. This is true, George. True, George. True.
And he's young.
Yeah. Well, give him a chance to come back up here and join in with us. Yeah, unfortunately, that's having the space or not having the space is always an issue, especially when you have kids in cars. So, Chris, are you back with us?
Can you hear me now?
Kevin, what's the connection between cars and shop space?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Like cars actually go in garages?
I know, isn't that bizarre? Yes, Chris, we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay,
Bruce,
so
Bruce,
let me
that depends
clarify
on
this.
marital status.
Let me clarify this 2-horsepower three-phase blower.
Sure.
I acquired it for free when I bought this Unisaw. The Unisaw came out of an industrial site. My friend does fire extinguisher sprinkler lines, and they were clearing it out. So he got it and he sold it to me for a really good price, and it had that 3-phase blower bolted to it. So the only reason I used it was because I found a cheap VFD off of eBay to make it work.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. How many CFM does that have? It must be pretty massive.
I used one of those measures, the aerometers or whatever you want to call them, and I think I got 1,700 CFMs. I don't know if it's 100% accurate, but if you stick your hand up next to the 4-inch pipes, you can feel it suck your hand in.
Because I mean, a jet double bagger puts out about 450, 500 CFM, 1,700. That's like, a jet stream.
I think I measured it right. I mean, the aerometer that I used, it was made for air ducts.
Yeah.
So you tell it the surface area, like I guess the diameter of the air duct that you're measuring, and it's supposed to calculate it. All I know is that if I stick my hand up to it, you can feel it sucking.
Well, I don't have any doubt that it was 1,700 because I know some of the commercial machines are pretty big, but I think that would probably suck my saw into it. So
yeah, the housing for the impeller is probably, it's got to be a little bit over 12 inches in diameter.
Wow.
Hey, Chris, it looks pretty bright in your garage. Do you use anything special lighting wise?
Just 2 Daylight Deluxe fluorescent bulbs right now, and then I have, I know I'm probably making Jody motion sickness. And then I have 2 more directly over the lathe.
Fluorescent?
Yeah, the same 4-foot Daylight Deluxe bulbs.
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody is looking at those supernova lights, I found this one on Amazon. It's not as fancy. It doesn't have, you can't focus it. But it looks just as bright, and it says it's 9 watts, just like with the same specs as the supernova lights. It was like $39.
Wow.
That's a great price.
A hell of a lot cheaper
Yeah.
than supernovas, that's for sure.
This
That's a magnetic base?
This one had a 20-inch gooseneck on it, but a week later I looked again, and there were multiples with a 30-inch gooseneck, which is the same length as the supernovas.
What were you looking for on Amazon? What kind of search parameter did you use for that?
Oh, I don't even remember, but I still got it saved in my list. So if you want, I'll email you a link to it.
Yeah, I would like to see that.
Big giant lights, you know, like
Yeah, right.
Probably find something under gooseneck.
yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think I looked at gooseneck LED lights or something like that.
I wouldn't be surprised if you did a lookup on even supernova that you would get it as an alternate.
Possibly.
Pretty cool.
So
Nice-
Chris, I'm super nosy. What's in the box?
You don't want to know what's in the box.
No, you don't keep like, is it lathe tools? Is it junk? Is it wood shavings and lathe tools? Okay, that's what's
No,
in my box.
it's wood shavings. I got my chucks in there, all the stuff in the top drawer. Then all my sanding stuff is in the second drawer. And then the bottom drawer is all my hollowing stuff. Which there's my hollowing stuff and my coring setup.
Nice.
Nice.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Chris, that on your hollowing setup, was that a laser or a camera?
It's a camera. So I got the camera set up for the coring setup right now,
Mhm.
but it's got the same wood block on the bar for my hollower.
Mhm.
And I use my 24-inch monitor that I use for when I do remote demos. That's
Nice.
my monitor I use for hollowing and coring.
Very nice.
A lot easier than looking at a little like 10-inch or 4-inch screen.
Yeah,
TVs are so
I'm
cheap.
still
now.
using my phone.
Yeah, that monitor wasn't all that expensive. I think I only paid like somewhere in $70-80 for it.
PC monitors have dropped in price like crazy lately.
Oh yeah, and it's got all the hookups. So it's got an HDMI hookup on it. It's got the regular computer hookups on it too.
Yeah.
By the way, I believe I found that light. It's RUN ACC LED work light. LED flexible gooseneck light, 900 lumens, 120 volt, fixed with screws. Industrial lighting work light with machine tools and lathe.
Yeah,
On
it doesn't
Amazon.
come with the fancy magnetic base, but I bought a big magnet from at Home Depot, and the bracket bolts right onto it. It comes with a 90-degree bracket.
Yeah, $39.99.
Hey, Norm, could you go and just put out an email to everybody on that with the make and model and everything?
I'll try to do that.
Throw it
Thank
up in the chat.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to send this to Kevin or Chris and let them send it because I'm not too great on that.
Here, even just push it up in the chat like you did the date.
We'll try. Well, let's see what I can do.
Copy paste, you know?
No, I don't know. That's the problem.
All righty. Chris, thank you. It was really
And the
good.
last thing I forgot, because it's way up high in the ceiling, I built I gotta flip my camera again. I can't aim this thing when it's looking at me.
There we go.
I built a filter box for it. So it's got a pretty high CFM blower motor connected to the top of it. So it sucks the air in and blows it along the ceiling.
Nice.
It's got four of those filters on it. So it's got a lot of surface area to suck dust in.
Looks like the Raycon filters.
Mhm.
No, they were just MERV 11 filters that I found off of Amazon.
They're nice. Cool beans. Any other
All right,
questions?
so I'm gonna pop back over to my laptop.
Okay. So, thanks, Chris.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
While Chris is moving along, Jody and Chris will be doing the photography demonstration. Jody, maybe do you want to start and share your screen and get ready here? So we can
Yeah, so I'm gonna unmute myself and hopefully, fingers crossed, my dog doesn't start barking at, squirrels or whatever. So Kevin, it looks like you're highlighted.
Let me unhighlight myself. Hold on. I'm going to spotlight you for everyone. You're on.
All right, so here we go. We're gonna share my screen. And start my slideshow. All right, is everybody seeing my
Yes.
my PowerPoint thing here? Okay, so let me get myself organized here. I'm gonna stick you guys over in the corner. Okay, so we are going to talk about photography as it pertains to people that are not photographers. I used very basic equipment to take all of the pictures in this slideshow. When I say very basic, I'm talking about my phone. I took all the pictures with my iPhone 8, but this is not going to be iPhone specific. Pretty much all of the tips that we're going to talk about pertain to whatever little digital camera you have. The best camera that you can have is the one that you're actually going to use. If you have studio lights and umbrellas and flashes and fancy equipment, that's great. You do you, but personally, that's a lot of drama and I don't want to do all that. So there's a bazillion types of photography, portrait photography, landscapes. We're going to talk about product photography. So how to get a picture of your bowl that you just made so that you can take something that's nice to send to the club, or you can, I don't know, share it with your neighbor, whatever. You don't need a lot of expensive equipment to take a good picture. So everything, I'm all over cheap and free. So that's what we're going to talk about. So in my opinion, and a lot of this is subjective, photography is art and art is subjective. So take everything with a grain of salt. But in my opinion, there's 3 factors to taking a good picture. Good lighting, an uncluttered background, and a little tweaking. With your lighting, you want a nice, even light. You don't want a lot of harsh shadows. Those can be distracting. And you want to be able to see the detail of your product. Being, 5 feet away, taking picture of a pen is completely useless because nobody can see anything. So especially if you're taking pictures to sell your work, if you wanted to do something maybe on Etsy or whatever, you want a nice close-up detail. You don't want a lot of clutter in the background. Backgrounds are cheap and you can use a piece of paper. You can get poster board at Michael's. You can use, I took a couple of these pictures. I used a cloth napkin, a piece of fabric. It's cheap. And then a little bit of an edit can go a long way to taking a better picture. You want to get, though, a good picture in your camera because there is no software on the planet that's going to save a terrible photo. There's a lot of free options Personally, I like Snapseed. It's something I use in camera or in my phone rather. There's also Camera Plus, Lightroom. There's free versions of all of those. And there's also free software that you can get for your PC. Photoshop has an Elements, I think it's called, is their free version. So you can do some editing in there, but don't rely too heavily on editing. Okay, so let's get into it. Lighting. So the photo here on the left, let me get a laser pointer here. Boom. And let me move you guys. I'm going to be moving this little chat box a lot. Okay, so the photo on the left is okay. I mean, it's fine. This harsh shadow though, I think is distracting. I think it kind of distracts. This is lit with a lamp, a flashlight on the side rather. This photo here on the right is inside a light box, and the light is softer. It could be better. Neither one of these pictures are edited. So if I was going to edit this, I would take down this highlight a little bit so it's not so blown out. But 5 minutes of planning can give you a better picture. Most days, I work a full-time job. I don't have a lot of light, beautiful natural light to work with, so I have to improvise. These pictures were taken at sunset, so I've got nothing. It's dark. I've got the overhead light in my room. They were taken at the same time. So, just the light box, I think, makes a big difference. And the setup, I think, makes a little difference too. In this picture, my ornament is sitting on the table. And in this picture, he's hanging on a nice ornament hanger. I think that makes it a little better, a little classier. Oh, and if anybody has questions, feel free to jump in. I talk a lot, so if I say something you didn't catch, please stop me. Okay, so moving on. This is my homemade, cheap, free light box. It's a simple solution. It's cheap and easy to make. So this is just a cardboard box. I cut big panels on 3 sides and covered them with wrapping paper tissue. So the stuff you put in a box with your shirts for Christmas, that's what's on there. Actually, that's a lie. The sides of the box use like a butcher paper, which is a little heavier. The top of the box has tissue. I wanted more light from the top and the sides. I don't know if I love it, but it works. As a aside, I just want to mention, I left my desk a mess on purpose. We're going to come back and talk about that a little bit later, but I intentionally left it that way because I wanted to prove a point. So we're going to talk about that again later. So with a light box, what you do is you take a lamp and you shine it. Literally, you put it right on top of your fabric, tissue, paper, whatever you have working, and it lights your little inside, whatever you put inside it. When you make a light box, you want to think about the size of the things you're going to photograph. I turned little, and this light box is way too big for me. I actually have this little guy sitting on I don't remember. I think I stuck a tissue box in there to put him up higher so he'd be closer to my light source. So if you are photographing pens and little things, you want to make a smaller light box. If you're turning big 18-inch bowls, you might want to make a bigger light box, like Chris has. Chris has a big light box. His was made from fabric and PVC, right, Chris?
Yeah.
So you can make them, fairly cheap. There's also some inexpensive options that you can get on Amazon. Those are kind of nice because they collapse and then you can store them somewhere. This is a big thing to find a home for. You also want to,
Jody,
what's that?
what kind of light are you using?
I was actually just going to get into that.
Okay,
So these are literally just ordinary desk lamps. I think this one is a 100-watt bulb. This one's like a 45-watt bulb. And right here, if you can see, I've got one of them flashlights. This is like the flashlight I use to walk my dog. It would be better if they were all the same wattage. This light here is the better light. It had the night, actually, the light died and I put a daylight light bulb in it. It's the light coming from the three sides is all different strengths, and we're going to talk about that in a later picture. So the light, you can experiment. I think a little bit higher wattage is going to do you better. Chris, what do you use in yours? I know you've got those big contractor lights.
I have 4 125 watt daylight deluxe fluorescent lights, and I actually use the strip lights, line all the parts of the my LIGHTBOX frame, and they're the daylight deluxe too, LEDs.
Yeah, so you can experiment with different lighting, different wattages. There's also other options. We're going to talk about another one a little later on that don't involve this setup at all that we can do to get good light in our pictures. Okay, so experiment with your lights. In this setup, I shot with the 2 lights from the top, and you can see that that casts a little bit of shadow underneath. It's okay. You know, like I said before, these pictures aren't edited. This is straight out of my phone. So, you know, if I had taken this picture during the daytime, if I had done this same setup on this is my sewing studio. It has a east-facing window. I've used this setup, or rather, with using the window as my top light from this side and putting these 2 lamps to either side, and that actually lights it better. But like I said, I don't always have mornings to do stuff. In this setup, this is the picture from before. I've got the lights coming from all 3 sides, and that lights it a little better, I think. I would edit this a little bit to take down these highlights, but it's a pretty decent photo for right out of the camera. And then this is where you're going to see, these are those 2 pictures side by side. A little change in the light makes an enormous difference in what the picture looks like, I think. So, you know, take a minute, figure out your lighting situation, and you'll get something kind of awesome. So this is a little helpful tip that I have discovered. Sticky tack, it's this blue stuff you can get at Walmart. It's a couple of bucks. It's cheap, it lasts forever. And it is super helpful for photographing tiny things. Your pens tend to roll around and the clips hit the table. So a little sticky tack and it'll hold it up for you and make it, you know, a little easier to photograph. And when you're shooting things inside a light box, you cannot shoot from the top because you'll block your light source. So you could stick a piece of, like if you were photographing a bowl, you put a little sticky tack under your bowl to angle it towards you. Or you can use your ornament. This ornament actually doesn't have a flat bottom. So I had a sticky tack under his backside to hold him down. You know, it just occurred to me, is this Zoom window show up on your side, or do you guys just see my PowerPoint presentation? My little Zoom.
We're just seeing the
people
PowerPoint.
window.
I see you and I see the PowerPoint both.
Yeah,
Okay, good. Because I keep moving, I've got the Zoom window with a couple of people in it, and I keep moving it out of my way. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, are you guys seeing that too? All right, anyway, so that's my little.
Jody, if you want to
to,
minimize that, you can.
What's that?
And just change your view and it'll make it very small.
Yeah, I've been changing it. I've been moving it and switching it. I like to see a few faces so that, you know, I know nobody's sleeping. Okay, so moving on. So this is another lighting setup. Use what's handy, what's around. I have a big window in my kitchen, a big sliding glass door rather. So this is a west-facing window. These are just water bottles that were sitting on the table, and this is a cloth napkin that I stuck into the handles of the water bottle. To take this picture, I literally did not get up from my kitchen table. I used another napkin to create like a cradle underneath my drape because I wanted to take a picture of this piece laying on its side. And using the natural lighting from the window, I took a picture with my phone. It's not bad. You can see all the details. I'm in nice and close. It does have a little bit of green cast to it from the napkin, but it doesn't suck. So what I did is I put it in Snapseed and I edited it, and we're going to look at it on the next slide. Let me just make sure I didn't skip anything. So using the light from the window, this is indirect lighting. Indirect lighting is going to be your friend if you're using natural light. Even if you're outside, you want to go under a tree and use the shade, or you want to be around the corner of the house so that the sun isn't shining directly on what you're doing. Indirect lighting is what you want. An overcast day is like a photographer's best friend. So you definitely, indirect when you're using natural lighting is the way to go. Keep in mind when you're using indirect lighting is not to get in the way of your light source. So if you're using indirect lighting, and I'm using the window here, I don't want to stand or sit in front of my piece. That's why this is kind of like off to the side. I want to make sure my body is out of the way and I'm not blocking any of that indirect light. So it's just something to think about when you're taking your picture. Okay, so editing. We're going to talk a little bit about editing. So there is no software in the world that will fix a really terrible photo. If you're taking your picture and you say to yourself, oh, I'll fix it in post-process, take another picture, because you will waste more time trying to fix a bad photo than it would have taken you to just make a change when you take the photo. So editing cannot fix focus. It cannot fix a really dark picture. It cannot fix a really crappy composition. You want to start with good bones, and then you can make a couple of tweaks and get something better. A little iPhone specific tip. This is the only camera phone tip I'm going to tell you. If you're using an iPhone and you touch the screen where you want the camera to adjust for the brightness, it will readjust your picture and adjust the brightness a little bit and refocus for you in that place that you touched the screen. So that's just, that one little thing. Also, one other phone photography specific tip: phones don't have macro. Back up. Your phone will not focus if you are within 6 inches of your piece. So just back up a little bit and it'll refocus for you. All right, so there's lots of free apps for phone editing. Oops. There's probably your phone software probably has editing software in it, which doesn't suck. It's pretty good. Snapseed's pretty good. I like that one a lot. You can adjust exposure and contrast and really fine tune stuff with levels and whatnot. Camera Plus is okay. Camera Plus isn't very intuitive though, so you kind of have to figure out how to drive it. There is also a free Lightroom app, which is nice, but it's designed to work with the paid Lightroom, so there's not as many free features, but it's pretty good. Editing is subjective. If what looks good to you might not look good to me, might not look good to Joe Schmo across the street. He might think it's too edited or not edited enough. If you're taking pictures to sell, I would recommend getting as close to what the actual wood looks like as possible, because if you edit your piece and it's maybe a little red and somebody buys it and they get it home and it's not red at all, that might be kind of upsetting to them. But also keep in mind that your picture might not look the exact same across all the platforms. So if Joe is using a Mac and Bev is using a PC, the picture might come across a little bit different. So this is the, yes.
With editing software, have you ever tried the GIMP?
I'm sorry?
Have you ever tried GIMP, G-I-M-P?
I have not. I've never even heard of it.
It's an open source freeware program, and it's pretty much identical to Photoshop.
I'll have to look for it.
Yeah, that's what I use.
For on my Mac, I actually have I have Photoshop and Lightroom for my Mac. This is just stuff I use on my phone. So this is my snowman picture from earlier. and it has a very green cast to it from the napkin and the natural lighting and stuff. So all I did with the edit is take out the green cast. I bumped the contrast up a little bit so that I could really make this grain pop. This is actually, I'm gonna confess, it's a little bit red. The piece is a little whiter than this, but I liked the way it looked against the green napkin. So since I'm taking it to show you guys and not to sell it on any place, I thought that was okay. And in this picture, this is our picture from before, my little gnome. I didn't do very much to this edit. The paper in the background is white, not yellow, so I adjusted a little bit for that. And I have to make a comment here that I was working on this in my phone, and the difference between the two pictures was pretty significant. But looking at it now on my PC, they're very close to the same picture. So I'm like, oh, my edit's barely even noticeable in this. But I cropped out the corner of the box was showing here, so I cropped that out, and I adjusted the, I took out that yellow cast so my paper looks a little whiter, and I just, punched the highlights up a little bit. I didn't do a lot. You don't always have to. If you start with something good, then you will have, less to do in editing. Okay, so moving on. Backgrounds. Backgrounds matter. They matter a lot. You remember this picture from before? This is a super cluttered background. Did you even know when you looked at the picture until I pointed out what you were supposed to be looking at? Like, it's just a hot mess. You have no idea what's going on. Backgrounds are important. So when you take a picture, think about what's in the background. This is a shot of that gnome, and he's on my lathe. And if you look, you can see my bench behind the gnome, and the color between the gnome piece and the bench is very similar. So it's really hard to pick out what the gnome is or what you're supposed to be looking at. So, a piece of white paper can, if you're shooting on the lathe, that white paper improves this photo so much. And this photo probably would have been fine if I had squared myself up and shot down instead of at this bizarre angle. This next picture is the only picture I put into Photoshop. I took this second picture here, and I rotated it, and I fixed the background. I took all the stuff out. I probably could have taken out this shadow down here and made it, really stark, but it just goes to show you that if you're photographing, you're turning, and you want to really make it pop, you need to take out all the distractions. This stuff is little, and you want to be able to see it. So, try not to get all this stuff in the back. Let's see, did I miss anything on that one? Nope. Okay, so to recap, a couple of things to remember is a nice, well-lit, detailed photo is going to really showcase your work. It doesn't matter if you're trying to share it with the club, share it with your friends, or sell, make a posting on Etsy to sell stuff. You really want to showcase, you put a lot of hard work into it to turn it, take the time to take a nice picture of it. A background, a white piece of paper, a piece of poster board can really help hide things that you don't want to show. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be fancy, and you could just throw a piece of fabric over your bench and use your lathe and all your wonderful lathe lights to just take the picture, and that would be fine. And think about too, that you don't have to use white. You can use gray, you can use black, you can use that, like I use that green. Sometimes if you're shooting a light colored wood, you might want to use gray or black. It might make, your picture more punchy. A couple edits, 2 minutes. If you're spending more than 2 minutes on an edit, you need to retake your pictures. Your edit shouldn't take forever. And the best camera is the one you're going to use. So if you're shooting on your iPhone 8 or you're shooting with your fancy DSLR, it's what you're going to use. That's the one you're going to, you're going to need to take the pictures, you know, it's doing you nothing if it's sitting on a shelf collecting dust. And just remember that art's subjective. You do you. If you like a lot of fancy edits, if you like it to be really punchy, go for it, you know? And I think that's the end. Does anybody have any questions? Thank you, Beth. All right, how do I
Nice
stop
job.
this? Whoops. Oh, I don't know how to stop my share.
Nice, thanks.
Okay, here we go. Chris, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I'll add a little bit about getting some different effects.
Okay, good.
Go for it, Chris.
Okay. There we go. All right, so some
Anything
different
change?
ways to get some effects are by changing some settings in your camera. So you could do the f-stop with at least the iPhone. I don't know if the Android phones will do it. So the f-stop is going to be your aperture adjustment. So it's going to adjust how much light the sensor gets. So the more light the sensor gets, the shorter the focus distance you're going to be getting from the shot. So you can do some effects with it where you can actually blur out like things that are in the background of your shot. So in this picture, I got it set at a low aperture. This lens that I have, the lowest I can go is 3.5. As you can see, I chose a focus on the center of this front one, and it blurred out the hollow form that I have behind it. You can also do it in reverse. You can focus in on the back one and have the front one blur out too. There's not many situations where you're going to do this, but it can be done. So with my DSLR camera, I have just, I want to say it's a higher end, like entry level camera. It's got a touch screen on it, so I can actually touch on the screen where I want the camera to focus so that you can get these effects done. The
I
other
will
setting,
say-
Chris, wait a second.
Yeah.
You said you could do this on an iPhone? An f-stop?
yes, yeah, if you set your iPhone to portrait mode, you can set the f-stop. It's the little fancy F in the top.
Okay,
You click on that, and then it'll allow you to adjust the numbers of the f-stop, which is how much light the I guess the lens is going to allow in.
okay,
So it's a
FYI,
little
that's-
confusing because the lower the number, the more
More
light
light.
that it's going to allow in.
right. Yeah, I know how,
FYI, that's,
I know how f-stops work, but I didn't know you could do that on an iPhone.
yeah, the newer iPhones, I don't think it's anything under 8 does it.
Yeah,
It's got
I
to be 8 or
I have a 10 for work, and that's the only Apple device that I have. So I just
Oh.
checked to see if you could do any of this with that.
Okay, so much for that. I have a 5.
Yeah, and that's not going to work on your 5, Bruce.
And so the next setting is your shutter speed. So here's a picture where I lowered the shutter speed way slow. This is like probably 50, 100 or 50 to 1. In order to do this, you can't do this holding the camera. When you get below, I don't know, Kevin, how low can you go before the shutter speed is too slow that you just blur the image out? Is it like 600 or something?
Yeah, you can, depending on how tight you can hold it. I mean, you can get it down to 60, but generally most people can't go below about 125 because it's just starts to fuzz.
Yeah, I used a cheap tripod
Yeah.
that I put my camera on. You can use the same tripod with your phone and buy a mount for it. You could buy a mount for under $10 that you clip your phone in. You can also buy a kit that I bought before I got my DSLR camera. The kit included a couple different lenses that actually clip onto the phone. So it came with a wide angle lens, a fisheye lens, which makes no sense, and it also came with a macro lens so that you can take those close-up photos. And the kit also came with a Bluetooth shutter button that you sync to your phone, so you don't have to touch your phone to take the picture. That comes in handy when you're taking pictures really close, because even if you just tap your phone, you can shake it. So the less you touch your phone when you're taking the picture, the better the picture will be. And this picture, I overexposed it just to show an example. If you're using a DSLR camera and you're in a low light setting, you can slow down the speed to get more light. And that's pretty much all I got.
So Chris, can you bring back to that last slide for just a sec?
Yeah, sure.
So just so that I'm not sure if everybody totally understands or not, you have three things that come into play when you're talking photography, and I don't care whether it's a phone or it's a ridiculously expensive, camera. The receiver or the image producing element in either the phone or the camera requires a certain amount of light in order to be able to record the image. So you have three things that you can play with. You can buy a more expensive camera that has a faster receiver, or actually the optics, which is really out of the question. The other thing you can do is you can vary the speed of the shutter or the opening in the lens so that you can come to a balance for being able to get the light that the camera actually needs to record the image. What Chris was showing really effectively, and Jody did it before, when you look at the back element in this picture, it's out of focus. The front element is in focus. Well, if you were to, but you got a good image. So you have the ability to vary your, what they call depth of field, by changing the shutter speed and the f-stop, so that if you think of baking, you need a cup of flour. You can get a cup of flour by either increasing the shutter speed or decreasing the aperture, but sooner or later you're going to end up with a cup of flour. And what's going to change is where this actually focuses, whether it'll be in the front image or the back image, and you can do some different things. So while you're actually snapping the picture in a digital camera, you can change the shutter speed or the f-stop. You can take a picture, look to see what's in there, and then you have the choice. If you want to get greater depth of field, meaning you want a deeper focal area, then you would increase the f-stop. If you want to narrow the focus field so that you only want the front image, you would then take and decrease the f-stop. It's in reverse. You would take it down to a lower number, and you would increase the shutter speed, because if you remember, you got to fill a cup of flour. You don't want it to overflow. If it overflows, it washes the picture out. But you can, with digital film, which is so nice, or digital versus film, you can see that instantaneously. As Jody was saying, if it takes you more than 2 minutes to do a photograph, something's wrong. You should have retook it. With digital, it doesn't cost you any more if you take one shot or 50 shots, and then you can take and pick the one you want. And what you should be doing is you're looking at composition, looking at the white, whether you've got the picture color-wise that you want, and focus. And that's all a matter of playing with the shutter speeds. And most phones have an ability for you to correct shutter speed, color, things of that sort. So out of that, you can actually, really sit and do 5 or 6 shots, and you can vary your composition and vary it simply by changing the shutter speed, maybe increasing the light, maybe changing the focus, and you can really change a lot of the features and value of what the picture is that you're taking. I hope that made some sense. But it's really where most people don't think when they're doing it is what's actually in focus and what is it that I want to highlight. Cool. Thanks, Chris. Any questions from anybody on anything? Jody, great presentation. Questions at all? And
Hey, Johnny, this is Bill Stewart. I just wanted to comment on the thing you told me about the iPhone, about touching on the picture to change focus and adjust the light metering. I never knew that before, and I just tried it, and it's like the greatest thing I learned this week. So thank you.
Total game
so much.
changer, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the one thing that most people fail to realize, and I'm noticing that I've just turned red because I changed the lights in my room here. You really have the ability to take a lot of control. Jody showed you pretty good pictures just by changing the light and changing what's there. And, I was a film photographer. I was a photographer, a commercial photographer for a lot of years. I never knew whether my pictures were good or not until about 14 days later. So you took more film with you than you ever thought you were going to blow through. I would do a wedding and I would go through almost 40 rolls of film. But now you can take on a digital camera and you can really take with a stick that's got enough space on it, and even your phone, you can do, terabytes of status. So, and they're free. So don't just take one picture, take 10 pictures, shift your lights, shift your speed, shift your angle, shift your other things. And then you can actually sit down with a light box or doing it in view mode and be able to pick the pictures that you like the best. And that there's nothing lost.
When I took those pictures, I probably took like 40 pictures.
Right.
I was just going to say the same thing. I think I had about 40 or 50 pictures to come up with those dozen for the presentation.
Exactly. And back in my day when I was doing it commercially, I had a motor drive. It took 20 frames every 30 seconds. So you had almost a frame every second and a quarter. So, and by then I'd have to change the whole reel of film. Whereas now you got a stick that you can get anywhere up to 500, 700 photographs on. You can do basically the same thing by varying things around, and it's $0.
I will say this about that though. Do yourself a favor. Don't take 40,000 pictures of the same setup. Take 4 or 5 pictures, change the plan, change your lighting, change your angle, change something, and then take 3 or 4 more pictures so that when you get into the selection process, you actually have options and you don't just have really minor variations of the exact same picture. You want actual, real, honest to God options. So, it's still life. Still life is easy compared to taking portraits. So, take advantage of the fact that your subject doesn't move and you move around it and see if you can capture, the personality of your piece or, make a few changes to your lighting, change your angle, change your setup, give yourself real options as opposed to minor itty bitty variation.
Very good.
Kevin, talk about bracketing.
So bracketing, when you're really doing bracketing, do you want to do bracketing film or digital? Do you care?
Digital.
Okay, so bracketing, whenever you're looking at any type of bracketing with photography, what you're basically varying, let's just assume that your focus is always right, because bracketing in photography sense means I'm changing my exposure. So when you're doing bracketing, think of sports photography, for instance, you'll actually be shooting. A sports photographer has a motor drive or has a camera that's going at machine gun speed. And what they're literally doing, if you watch a photographer, and I'm trying to do this with this background thing, they're moving one hand or the other. So what they're doing as they're shooting, and they're literally leaving the trigger going, so the camera's just going tick, 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 taking pictures, but they're changing the f-stop or they're changing the speed as they go. So what bracketing is really doing is you're then taking a picture which may be overexposed. As you continue to shoot through, you're going towards an underexposed picture. Same way with speed. If you've got something that's moving And with us, we're really not moving. What you're really looking to do is change focus, right? So with us, your bracketing is you're focusing. I'm going to get rid of this backdrop because it's I don't know about you, but it's driving me crazy. Let's see if I can get rid of it. You're changing the ability to really have a let me get rid of this background. Hold on one second because it's driving me nuts and I'm losing my point here. Sorry. So everybody just see my yellow wall now and my shiny head. So when you're bracketing, you're literally, so you may start here, look at my hand is in focus right now, right? And if I move it back really fast, it's going through focus and now it's out of focus, right? If I move it close again, it's back in focus. If I move it back, it's out of focus. Well, what's changing? It's the amount of light that's hitting my hand from the light that's above me. So you're bracketing, if you will, an exposure from being brighter to not, and this is changing focus. So you're getting a different depth of field. If you're bracketing based on other exposures, if you're changing your f-stops or if you're changing your speed, you'll bracket, my light will get darker or it'll get lighter or it'll change color. I'm sort of faking it here. But if you look at my black shirt below this, I've blocked out all the light. My black shirt right now is really kind of black. If I bring it back, my black shirt is picking up the light in the room. If I bring it back further, I'm really picking up the light in the room if I stand up, like for instance. So think of that as bracketing my exposure. So I could have made it dark by cutting down the light, changing my f-stop, or making it a little bit dimmer by maybe using an umbrella or a shade or something. And then I'm making it more exposed by being add more light or being able to focus. So when you're bracketing in a light box, Cody was doing it, what Chris is doing, you're really trying to hit where your light is right and your focus is where you want people's attention to be drawn to. So you may be trying to draw them to the bottom of the bowl. So you will change your focus so that it's on the bottom of the bowl, which means you're going to have to reduce your light or your speed because you're going to be really focusing tight and you're going to have to get enough light in there to be able to expose it right. So you're having to vary speed. And unfortunately, it's not as easily talked about as Jody's was just saying on a slide, but once you play with it a little bit, you'll get it. It's not that hard to think about. Did I continue,
Unfortunately,
Ronnie?
photography is a very deep and dark rabbit hole, and you can spend a lot of time learning all of the rules, which is great. And I think the benefit of learning all the rules of photography is that then you know how to break them.
Right.
But there is a lot of information, a lot, tons, books and books and books full of information.
Yeah.
So I suggest if you're really interested in photography, pick a discipline and kind of just start in one, learn about light or learn about shutter speed or learn about f-stops and take your camera out of auto. That's my best, most helpful
I think
tip.
the other thing too is then, Jody, what you're saying too is be consistent. So if you have a light box and you have bulbs, Chris, you probably found you had to rebalance all your color settings when you had to change your light bulbs, correct? Because one bulb was probably bluer or yellower than the other. Your exposure was different. If you can be consistent, and if you have the same light source all the time, then you don't have to think about that anymore. As opposed to when you're going outside, sometimes it's sunrise, sometimes it's sunset, sometimes a blue sky, sometimes a cloudy sky, contrast is changing, or brightness is changing. Try and get consistency. So if you have the ability to have a light box, cool. If not, if in fact you're shooting outside, you probably, if you've ever seen anybody photographing a wedding, there's all these people standing there with white reflectors and umbrellas and all this other crazy stuff because they're trying to get the light down to where they need it. So like a black umbrella versus a white umbrella, if you're outside, you can get a lot different effects. If you want to photograph your work outside, be prepared to be able to control the light if you can't control the speed of your camera or your phone.
Kevin,
Share my
coming back to your shiny head,
Yeah.
the problem that I've had has always been the shine on my piece.
Yep.
And I shoot through diffused paper and tracing paper and, tissue paper, and I just can't get rid of all of the glare.
Yep.
And I played with my camera so much and understood so little of it that I ended up often going back to my phone and just taking what I could and doing a little bit of editing but I've never been able to find a setting where I can actually reduce the glare to something acceptable.
Right.
So this is where it's really handy that you're shooting something that doesn't move. So what you can do is actually shoot with less light and a longer shutter speed. So and eliminate some of the light sources that are causing the glare. If you can see the glare with your eye, the camera's going to pick it up. So you shoot with very soft light, very not super bright light, and you open your shutter speed to take a longer picture. And then you're going to have to edit it to blow to, if you get those big highlights, you're going to have to throw it into some software and knock back your highlights to really get that glare out of there.
Yeah, and unfortunately, some of my experience was by the time I got it down so that it was literally dark enough to eliminate the glare, I'm already eliminating some of the detail. So
Yeah.
So you might also want to experiment with light from different directions, like don't necessarily, so ambient lighting is what I'm thinking would be probably good for you. Chris had some tape lights at the bottom of his box. So it's not actually shining on the piece itself, but creating a light in the box to bounce around. What are you doing?
I've run into issues with those lights. I'm about to eliminate them. Because even though it's low, if I'm photographing something really shiny, you could still see the strips of lights in the piece with them.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a technique that goes back to studio photography a little differently. And what I was trying to do is, if you take my coffee mug, for instance, and think of my coffee mug, right? If this was your light, right? So the brightest part of your light is where the filament is in the center of the light. So that's where your light is emitting from, and it's in the center. If you take, and if you put something like, if I put this plastic over it's diffusing all of the light. It's not changing the intensity of anything that's there. It's diffusing the whole entire light source. But you still have the problem. This is still hotter than here because this is where the filament is. In photography, what you typically do is you take potentially a stick and you cut out a piece of cardboard and you make a circle like this circle here of cardboard. I'm trying to do this in reverse and it's not working, as you can see. But if you literally took in front of your lights, and if this was your light, and if you cut a piece of cardboard, and I'm going to turn it to the side, and if you cut a piece of cardboard and cut it out in a circle and put it about 5 inches in front of your light bulb, your largest source of your glare is going to be blocked because it's the filament. So you could use this as a diffuser. You could do it as a piece of white cardboard. You can do it as a piece of black cardboard, but take your light and actually take and bend. Some people use wire, like thin wire bars, coat hangers. And I used to take a coat hanger, you tape thing around your light, you take the coat hanger out, you put a piece of cardboard on the end of the coat hanger and stick it in the light stream. So the hottest part of the light, which is your center, now is coming down and hitting the cardboard. And you're actually getting the reflected light from the outside. And that will eliminate a lot more glare than you realize, because what the glare is, my head, there's a light bulb right above me. If I can cut that light bulb out, or somehow, like if I can swing it, it actually eliminates that. Now it's in shadow. So think of that little white thing that was in front of the lens. My rest of my body's still getting the light, but now I have this little cardboard thing. If I open my fingers a little bit, I'm letting through that hot spot again. So if you can put something in between your light source and the thing you're photographing and make it small and use that, like, where you can flex it so that you actually cut the intensity, because the center of your light is usually 2 to 3 times brighter than the outside of your light.
So you're basically what we used to, when back in the day of black and white photography, you're dodging the light source.
Absolutely correct.
Something, this is the first time that's ever been explained to me like that.
Well, thanks. But
Another trick you can do is actually turn your light source around and reflect it back at your work with a reflector that you get those pretty cheap. Or they sell umbrella boxes that you can use with a flash that'll shoot it back, and that diffuses the light very beautifully, and will prevent some of those hot spots too.
I planned on doing that, but I just been a little bit lazy with it.
Yeah, but if you look at a professional photographer's camera, usually, if you look at it, he's got the camera here and he's got a flash. 99% of the time when he's doing something close to
Flash
flash,
is going up.
facing this way, it's going up.
Yes.
Facing ceiling.
Yeah, they bounce the light off the ceiling.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And Bruce, and now I know you're as old as I am because you know about. But it's true. That's literally what you're doing. What you're having to do is not control the entire light. You're controlling a piece of the light. Then the other side of it too, that when you're doing portrait photography, we actually had dulling spray. And most pieces you can't do that. But you can use talcum powder. You can use things that are actually there. The problem with when you're doing it on a workpiece, it's more than likely more permanent than you like it to be. So you have to use a diffuser as opposed to a dulling spray. I used to have stuff that, I could take care of this quick spray and it's gone. And it's no different than the glare spray that they use on your eyeglasses that eliminates the glare. You can't see it, but it's diffusing the light as it's coming in. So my suggestion is, if you know how to dodge and burn, that's the way to do it. The problem is with a phone, usually the light source, I don't know about your camera, but my Samsung, the light source is right here. And guess what? Here's the lens. So you can't, it's impossible. But if you
Trying to use your phone as a light source is an invitation to crazy town. I just don't recommend it.
Yeah, really.
Use a secondary light source. Don't use the light on your phone. Even the onboard flash on your camera, like your DSLR, the onboard flash is terrible. I don't recommend it. Get a secondary source.
Yeah, you can use all kinds of fabrics. You can use all kinds of things. You can just use white cardboard. Go to the store and buy white poster board or buy white foam board. I used to use foam board all the time. Bounce your flash at the foam board and then towards your object, and your glare will pretty much go away.
Yeah.
That's a good question. And boy, I haven't thought about dodging and burning in a long time. So
Actually, I've got a question for Chris. Going back to his shop tour, Chris, the magnetic mount you picked up from Harbor Freight. Do you know what kind of mount that was, or what they would describe
Wasn't
it
from
as?
Harbor Freight, and it wasn't a mount. It was just a big magnet from Home Depot.
Home Depot. Okay.
It's like it's a $7 magnet. If you go into the hardware section,
Yeah.
they have a spot with all the magnets. There's one that's maybe about like 2-ish inches in diameter with a metal covering over it.
On camera.
No, I don't. I'm good.
You gotta it sticks nice and tight, and you gotta work it a little bit to get it off, but it does a good job of holding it in place.
Very good. Thank you.
I used the same magnet to hold my dust collector hood in place.
yeah, they work really.
Excellent.
Any other questions? Anybody else? No? Cool. Well, Jody, Chris, I got to tell you, really, really, really good presentation. Thank you so much. I give you a great round of applause for that one.
Yeah, good job.
you.
Thanks.
God bless you.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Bless you, Ronnie.
It's muted here. Let me do this.
So now I expect to see like amazing, photographs for the next show and tells, which brings us to our next section, right? So let me take in, share my screen here. Let me make sure I don't have any of my stuff. Oh, here's what I wanted to show you while I'm doing share your screen. Hold on one second. Everybody's probably thinking, oh, DLRs, they're really expensive. They're a lot of money, and they are. B&H Photo is one of the places in New York City. I used to do a lot of business with them. They do mail order as well as everything else. I find they have you can see it here, used cameras, and they have all different kinds of things. They have lighting and studio equipment, God forbid, Bruce, you can buy another darkroom if you want. They have digital photography stuff. Yeah, I had an old Besser 23C if you wanted it, but so you can buy this EOS 6D, for instance. When it originally came out, this was a $2,000 camera, and it's 739 used. And they have a lot of different things that you can buy a used camera. So my suggestion, if you want to step up from a camera that you have the ability to go from a phone to a cheap camera, you can go to some cheaper ones. Pentax is usually cheaper. Here's a Pentax digital SLR, $369. This camera was probably close to $1,400, $1,500 when it was new. So you have the ability to take and be able to buy something in a used market, save quite a bit of money, and be able to do it. So don't forget about stores like this. B&H is one that I'm familiar with. Did a lot of business with them, but they have a lot of good stuff, and you can get it in a used market, which is another way to be able to do it. So
There's also a brick and mortar camera store in Brick called
The brick and mortar camera.
Brick Photo. And they also sell used cameras, and you can go and play with them to make sure they're exactly what you want. So that's another.
Cool.
So the camera I use is the Nikon D5600. I picked it up. It was a kit from BJ's. It was like around $700. It came with the camera, 2 lenses, a case. So
I also have.
It wasn't super expensive.
Yeah, mine also wasn't super.
DSLRs.
Chris, that's the same camera body I have right now. But you
I kind of looked for one that still used the lens and didn't use a digital sensor.
Say it again,
Excuse
Chris?
me?
It used a mirror, not a digital sensor like the cheaper Canons had switched to.
So
it's not a full frame, but
Right.
it still uses a mirror sensor in it.
The original SLRs were film based. The new ones, the DSLRs, the difference between a DSLR, there's 2 different kinds that are available. One has a mirror that when you take the picture, the mirror swings up out of the way to allow the picture to be able to hit the sensor. You can get them when they call them mirrorless SLRs. So it's a single lens reflex, but it's mirrorless, meaning that when you take the picture, what you see in your image finder is exactly what you see in the picture. There's no mirror. It's actually a mirror that allows light to pass in a mirrorless camera, as opposed to a DSLR where the mirror actually swings up out of the way. You can always tell the difference. A DSLR, if you hear it, it's 10 times noisier than a mirrorless camera because you hear the clack bang of the mirror going up and then down when the picture's taken, whereas a mirrorless camera is relatively silent. Like a Leica doesn't even use that. It uses different things, but it's literally quiet. You can't even tell that somebody's taking a picture. But with what we're doing, I don't think it matters. But I think if you have the ability, if you're going to be doing work, the ability to get off of your phone and to buy even a cheap SLR or cheap DSLR, something that's there is probably worth the price. And while you're at it, buy a decent tripod to go with it, something short, a tabletop tripod or whatever to be able to do it. But I think
I trade in a lot of cameras, and I'll tell you that you get into if you go about 3 years backwards in models and technology, you get the stuff for nothing. Go on eBay. I bought some beautiful cameras on eBay that were 3 or 4 years old for 15% of what they cost.
Yep.
Yeah. For example, is that I got a D5600 a year ago, and I went to sell my old D70 body on eBay. I could not even get $20 for it, and it worked fine.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy the differences, Ronnie. You're right on the money. I mean, my gear now is pretty old. I'm really starting to get into some different stuff with the camera and being able to lock the mirrors, something that the new ones don't even have anymore, is really important. Like for a long time photography, like in astrophotography, you actually want to lock the mirror up. And you can get the stuff super cheap, whereas before it was, $1,000, $1,500, $2,000, $300,000. You can buy a decent one for $200 now. It's pretty crazy. Okay, photography. Anybody else? Questions? If not, we will move on. Ronnie, you almost look tan to me. I'm so jealous.
Still outside.
Yeah, that's okay. It's not 29 degrees, so, you know.
I don't miss it.
Okay, hold on one second. I got to be able to share my screen here. I'm going to share my screen and go back. All right, so I'm going to take and go here. James Dale, you are first up tonight. Why don't you unmute yourself and tell us about your piece?
Okay, I've been making some salt and pepper shakers, buying the internals, as you can imagine, from our friends at Craft Supply, and just playing around with it and trying to get good at it. The one challenge I've had is getting it to be perfectly round with the top piece, the headstock and the tailstock. But I've seen a couple of mistakes that I was making, and I think I can get better at that. And the other piece that I've been trying to do is to get them to look a little bit more similar, but not too close, so that you can tell a salt shaker from a pepper shaker without having to look at the little engraving on the top of the knob on the top of the shaker. And I guess as an example of that is the next pair that you see. They're a little more similar. I was trying to make them look a little bit like a lighthouse, a motif, if you will. So that's why they kind of look the way they do. But you know, I've been using them as gifts, or plan to, for Christmas, and a couple of people have asked me about them. So that's what I've been up to.
Really nice, James. I like the differentiation between the salt and pepper too.
Well, when somebody says, hand me the salt and pepper shaker, which one do you grab?
Well,
Unless they're different colors.
as long as I have my glasses on, I 50% of the time can get the right one, right? So,
Right.
there you go.
You know, the wood I've been using is I've been buying blanks. And I bought rolling pin blanks, and they were 18 inches in length, so I could get a couple out of two pieces out of one blank. So, and also the wood is nice and uniform, and the maple is the least expensive, just buying plain maple, and it came out pretty good.
I like them. Somebody's going to be pleased to have those. Okay, Bev, you're up. Unmute yourself.
Yep. This is a gift for my old college roommate, and it was a piece of old pine driftwood. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, pine driftwood, and it had a hole in it. And I knew that I wanted to put a bowl in there and then put a candle in it, make a whole centerpiece kind of thing. So I had to fill that little hole. But before I could fill the hole, I had to know what size the base for my bowl was going to be. So I found that and turned another little piece, glued that in, and put some wood putty around it, and buffed the whole thing up. And then the next shot, oops, that's the finished piece.
Hold on.
That's the bowl. That's
sorry.
Fail, Kevin, total fail.
I'm getting dizzy.
This is what I got. These are the four you sent me.
1, 2, and 3. So there was the driftwood, and then a peach bowl. And I didn't fasten the bowl into the driftwood. All 3 pieces are separate, so that she can take it and leave it and do whatever she wants with it. But the bowl actually now sits nestled inside that piece that's inside the driftwood. You following me?
Gotcha.
That's really clever, Bev. Nice.
Nice job, Bev.
And then, so the candle is a little electric battery candle. And, you know, she can turn that on and off, or she can put it off to the side, whatever. And it's all padded on the bottom, and it came out pretty well. I like it.
So Bev,
It's about 16 inches wide and long, and the bowl is about 3 inches deep. Okay.
So Bev, I have a question for you. Considering we've been talking about photography, I really loved how each of your photographs, you have a background, you have a variation in light, your pictures are really nicely focused. How did you photograph this?
My iPhone.
Okay,
And then I took, I edited to size, I clipped them down. I don't know, what is that? There's a little focus thing. And then I don't know that I used anything else except maybe another focus word on my phone. But this is an iPhone 6, I think, 5 or 6. And I find that it takes great pictures. And if I concentrate on the contrast and not get too much shadowing, the bowl has too much of a shadow on it, I think. If you can you find a picture of just the bowl? Well, that's the two of them together. And yeah, the bowl has a bit of shadowing that I'm not happy with, but it does show that it has a stand, a little base. And I used a tablecloth that is kind of not a white, not bright white. And the pieces have been buffed. They've not been sprayed or lacquered or anything else. It's just a high buff from the Beal system that I use.
really nice.
Now that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I like it. Nice
Thank
work.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nice job, lady.
Nice job. Very
Thanks.
Very nice.
So somebody probably can guess who's next here since I goofed this up before. There you go, Bill.
Okay, this was my kendama. Now, it's a bit distorted there because, and I just realized this now, because that ball on the top, which is actually called the tama, is actually completely round. It's a perfect sphere, almost like a pool ball. And what I did to make the sphere is I just took a piece of cardboard and I cut out a semicircle template, hollow, and then I slowly turned the ball when I had it, one end of it, the other end in my chuck, and got the end of it completely round. And then I slowly moved up over the top and down the other side. So I had maybe about a quarter of an inch or so holding it to the lathe with a live center, cup center on the other side of it. And then I parted it off, and the part where I had the quarter inch that held it to the lathe, that's where I drilled the hole where the ken, which is the walnut piece, went up and goes into. It's made out of 3 different types of woods. The stick sticking up, which is called the ken, that's made out of walnut. The cups that come down is called the serrato. That's made out of red oak. And then the ball on the top, which is called the tama, is made out of maple. Now, one of the things that I learned, a little trick, probably a lot of you figured this out for yourself already. If you have to thread a string through this small wooden hole, and I'm using braided kite string here, which has no body at all to it. All you got to do is take your string, take the end of it, and hold it so it's hanging down, and put a couple of drops of thin CA on the end of the string. And the CA just runs down the string, which is straight, spray it quickly with accelerator, and now you turn the last 3/4 of an inch of the string into like a needle that makes it really easy to thread through anything. So that was, like I said, you probably know that already, but it's a little trick that I picked up that I've used a few times in the past, and it really worked well. I've tried playing this. I've almost injured myself several times with it. That ball starts flying around. It's fairly lethal. But if you look on YouTube, it's some of the videos. In fact, one of the videos that Tom posted was something called Making with Miles or something like that. little kid that you saw, Bev, who's like this wood turner, who does all this stuff really easily. But then there's a video of his friend that plays with this thing and is like world champion, with slinging it around and I could never ever do that, so I should make the cups a little bit bigger, the ball should be a little bit smaller, but that's Mike and Tama.
Nice.
Nice.
Nice job, Bill. Okay. Next up is our new member, Nick.
Hey everyone, so I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little self-conscious of my photography now after those presentations. But these are just some Christmas presents I've made. A bunch of bottle stoppers and a couple bowls. The bottle stoppers on the left, the really light colored ones, are kind of my favorite because they came from a really large rhododendron bush that's been in my family for probably around 100 years. It was at my great grandparents' house, and then my grandparents transplanted it to their house, and now my parents are in that house. So I made a bunch of them and gave them to my aunts and uncles, or we'll be giving them to my aunts and uncles. And I thought they were really cool. The bowl on the right is also a cool one because my father-in-law is a carpenter in the city, and he gave me a bunch of oak beams that he said were over 100 years old from one of the buildings that they were restoring. So I thought that was a pretty cool piece. But again, just some small things that when I get some time to play around with, I enjoy putzing around in there.
Nick, did you add color to the two bowls on either side?
So it's just some resin. I used Alumilite. They had some checks in it, so I just kind of cut out the checks and then filled them with I believe I used Alumilite, the epoxy or resin, and I have I made one of those pressure pot from the Harbor Freight paint sprayer, and just cast them in there and then turned them with the acrylic or resin. I'm not even sure what it's called. The one bottle stopper has a little bit at the top of it as well, towards the right. And the bottle stoppers with the color, those were just the two on the right. Those were just I bought them. They were dyed. They were just blanks that I purchased that were already dyed.
Really nice.
Nice.
I'm glad we got a new resin caster in the group here.
Well, I'm very, very much a beginner. There's a lot of mistakes in that, but I did enjoy playing around with it.
Tim, Norm had asked you before, and I didn't get the answer. Nick, I'm sorry. I didn't get the answer. Where do you live?
I live in Freehold. Freehold now. I've been in Freehold for about 5 years. I grew up in North Jersey and moved down here about 5 years ago.
Oh, welcome.
Nick, what type of finish did you use on the bottle stoppers?
Just a spray lacquer. Nice and easy, real quick. I can do a couple coats in a night and be done with it.
It's pretty, really nice.
And then
Very nice job.
The bowls were just a friction polish, and then just some wipe-on poly.
Quite nice. Next one, ready?
Yep.
Okay. Sure. There we go.
And this is just another thing I made recently. I ended up giving it to my mother. It was I saw someone turn a lamp, and I was like, "Oh, that looks like fun." So I ordered the lamp parts, and this was actually the second take on it. I turned it and I brought it inside, and my wife was like, "That is hideous." So I brought it back out and made some adjustments to it and cleaned it up a little bit. And I thought it came out pretty cool. It was kind of just a Sunday afternoon project. Kids were running around outside, and I was in the garage just putzing around, and I thought it came out pretty cool.
Is that two pieces?
Yeah, it's the bottom is walnut and the stem is maple. No, I'm sorry, not maple, cherry.
Very nice. I like the shape and how they mate together. Very
Yeah,
nice.
thank
Very
you.
nice.
Yeah, it's really pretty. I was going to say, if that's hideous, I don't want to see your bad work.
Well, no, this was, I had to change it around. I didn't get the approval on the first round, so I had to bring it back out and make some adjustments to it. I got the approval on this one.
Yeah. Well, good.
Nice work on that nasty old Sears lathe.
Well, no, I've since upgraded since that Sears lathe. I now have I think I have the same one that Chris has as his travel ones, which is my main one. I have the Raycon was it 220 VSR, a little MIDI lathe that I play around with.
Good pickup.
Nice stuff.
Nice work. Nick.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Really nice.
Nice job, Nick. And again, welcome.
Very good.
Okay, Doug is not here. He had sent his work in there earlier, so I'll just do these quickly. I don't actually know what these are, but I'm going to show him. No, he told me they were candlesticks. We'll let Doug explain these in another day. But these are all some of the pictures that he sent me. A couple, another candlestick. He also did a tea light. And then another tea light. And his last one was a larger pedestal type candle base, really pretty. I'll have Doug explain those to you next time when he's around. But I thought they were really pretty. I didn't want to take them out of the show because they were really nice. Okay. So next up, oh, look at that. It's me. So I made a set of 9 platters, 8 for the dishes and 1 for other stuff for my wife. These are actually mahogany and cherry. And then out of the end cuts, when I cut the original bowls, I made napkin holders out of this stock. Because what I did was I was able to go down to Wilner's in Trenton, and I got, believe it or not, really, really wide mahogany and cherry boards. They were 14 inches wide, and they were 5 inches thick. So these are actually the boards. I ripped them down on the bandsaw. So I got 2 platters out of each of the pieces of board. And then I turned them different. So you can see some of the variations in the wood. She's calling these, they're chargers. They go actually underneath the plates that are on the table. So there's some cherry, some mahogany, and there's 1 or 2 other ones. And then I just made the backs of them so they wouldn't slip and slide on the tables. Kind of did a pattern and left the chucking component in there because I just thought it looked kind of cool. I just have to burn in my initials or something. But that's one of my platters or one of my projects, which is going to be a Christmas present. And then I don't know how many of you guys have went to the shows, but if you've watched Alex Snodgrass, this is the classic Alex Snodgrass reindeer. And what prompted me to do this was the continuing conversation on the Google Chats group, Google Mail group on the bandsaw blades. This is, I thought it was a great discussion. There was a lot of good stuff going back and forth as to which type of blades and sources. I'd love to see us do that kind of stuff. And hopefully as we continue along here, you do that on the website, Google groups, because we have the ability to do this type of forums and communications on the website, just like we do Google groups. But everybody seems to be, comfortable with Google groups. But this is a classic Alex Snodgrass Carter bandsawed reindeer. And of course, you can't just make one. So I'm in the process of making 15 of them right now in various sizes and various woods. These are actually the 3 biggest ones are actually maple because I needed something that was a little beefier. But the rest of these, they're building the house about a block from me. These are cut ups from a 2x12 that the carpenter who was doing the framing was extremely generous to give me and said, take any of the scraps you want as long as they're less than 14 inches because they use those for the blocking. But I grabbed a couple. My wife and I carried home a bunch of end cuts of 2x12, and I'm slowly but surely turning these. These are a 1/8 inch blade on a 14-inch Raycon. And if you want to try and replicate these, you can't use anything more than a 3/32 inch blade on a machine to do this. I actually snapped and it's a Carter blade. I snapped my blade on the last one that I did, and I had to switch to a 3/16 blade. But a 3/16 blade on a 14-inch Raycon is really hard to keep tracking. And I used the Carter one-point wheel instead of using the regular bandsaw guides to be able to do this, just like Alex does. And I've been having a lot of fun. So those are my two projects, one wood turning and one not. So
I love your little reindeer army. It's super cute.
thanks.
Nice job.
Anybody who had a gift or had something that they wanted to show that didn't submit it to me that would like to show it now, or did I miss anyone?
Really nice, Kevin.
Thanks.
I'd like to show you this. Remember, I think I showed you this last time, but it's a turned bell and there's a bell underneath it.
Oh, that's nice.
Isn't that cute? So I'm making, how many of these? 20 of these.
Hey,
Yeah.
Happy
they're-
carpal tunnel.
They're little. You know, they're only like 3 inches, 2 inches. 2 inches by inch and a half.
Did you write the date on the inside? What is that that's written in
Yeah.
there?
That's what it is. It says, this one says 20 Canary, which is the kind of wood it is. And 2020, which is the date. And Beverwood, which is my company.
How cute is that?
cool beans.
And then-
Nice.
Yeah.
How long does it take you to make each one?
Oh, about an hour.
Oh, that's a lot of hours work.
And then I finish them off with the Beal shine.
Really nice, Bill.
Cool.
But the canary is, somebody said it before, it makes your shop smell good. It really does.
That's pretty neat.
So how do you string the bell? Does it go all the way through and out the top, or does it like,
Yeah.
did you tie it in there? How'd you get it in there?
It's tied in. You can't see it. It goes through. I just took, when it was still on the lathe, I took a very fine drill point, like a 3/16, and shoved it in, and it goes all the way through. That makes it go straight instead of trying to drill from one side and the other. That doesn't work.
Yeah,
Because
I
then you
imagine
got-
not.
Nah. So I do it on the lathe and then string a string right through, tie the bell on, tie a knot inside so that the bell doesn't pull back up, tie another knot on the top, and then stuff it back in.
Really nice.
All right, then.
Yeah, and then put a little bow on it to hide all the stuff.
Pretty cool.
Really
And
nice.
Perry, I have one picture that I just looked and you're in my inbox. So I just quickly put that up. Hold on one second, everybody. I'm going to share my screen for one more time. Perry, I didn't realize yours was in there and I just threw it up there real quick so that you
Wow.
can as well. Just go ahead, Perry.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a piece of cherry crotch. I think I milled that 25, 30 years ago. So come March, you know, we've all been putting up with this horrible problem we're all dealing with. And I was inspired by it and decided to, I've done a whole series. I have about close to 10 pieces, all different. And so I just turned a nice ball with a very, very large lip, and then drew out my design and slowly, meticulously cut it out using either a drill press or a jeweler's saw. I used some Dremel, and then just slowly keep working around the edges to, you know, you gotta look. I use a jeweler's lens and just look very carefully for scratches and stuff like that. And it was interesting getting under that lip, especially when it came to the sanding. But remember, when it's turning, it's still around, you know, none of the cutouts are there yet. So I like the inside, the outside, the bottom, so no matter where you look at it, it's a finished piece. So getting under that lip was pretty tedious to get in there, especially working through all the grits of paper. But and then I have about 4 or 5 coats of the white bond poly on there, which seems to work pretty well. And so they're moving along. I have a couple more pieces that I'm working on right now.
It's really pretty, Perry.
Nice
That's a
job, Perry.
super interesting piece. I really like it.
Thank you.
Beautiful work, Perry. Beautiful.
It's about
Very nice. Very cool.
It's about 8 inches in diameter and about 3.5, 4 inches tall.
Yeah, it's really nice. And I apologize, Perry. Your
That's beautiful.
your send to me just came through with a phone number and it went right into my spam folder.
Yeah, I've been kind of delinquent. I've been doing a lot of stuff. I have a couple jobs going on. I'm dealing with the college. I teach at a college, and there's just, I was lucky to be able to get face to face with my students for 9 classes, but now we're back to virtual. And I teach furniture design, so it's kind of hard to go from face to face, and now I'm doing virtual, so I'm basically giving them design problems and stuff like that. So I haven't been to many meetings, and then last minute I saw your email. I said, "Oh, I'm going to send a piece in and join in for a change because I miss everybody." It's good to
Yeah,
see
I'm
what
really
everybody.
glad you did.
Good to see you, Perry.
Great. Yeah.
You too.
Good job,
Yeah.
Perry.
Thank you.
Kevin, where did you say you got the lumber for those platters?
At the place in Trenton.
Willard Brothers?
Willard.
Brothers.
Oh, okay.
Willard.
I thought you said something else, right?
No,
thought
Willard- I got
What
those.
was that called?
They're scrap bin in the cut
Willard.
shed.
Willard. Thank you.
A lot of
They,
times they'll have short pieces of really thick lumber over there.
Yeah, Willard has they do all their own milling there. I don't know if any of you folks have been there, but if you haven't, it's really worth a trip.
Oh,
It's
I've
on,
been going there for years. Yeah.
yeah, it's on Swamp Something Road, and it's in Trenton.
Yeah.
It's
Basin Road. It's on 300 Basin Road.
Basin Road, and there's a they actually run Save a Tree is a tree trimming company. They actually do all arborist type work, and then they have the actual mill. If you go into their lot, it's a gigantic piece of property. It goes back pretty far back, and then they have down and way in the back. They have probably 1,000 or more trees that they have are aging. And then they have a commercial mill that's right there. They actually do all the bandsawing and cutting all of the wood there. So they do whatever they can pick up locally, they sell in the store, and it's all been kiln dried, and it's been actually available there. They'll cut it to size. They do a lot of slab work with live edge slabs. That's the biggest seller is live edge slab stuff, and they go up to 27 feet long. And then in their cutoff shed, you can go in and you basically buy by the pound. I bought literally that super thick mahogany where I got 2 of the platters out of, and I bought pieces that were all 24, 28 inches long, and I think they cost me $8. And it was, it was crazy.
They usually have a sale about this time of year, but maybe COVID stopped them from doing that.
Yeah.
They also have a really nice selection of exotics in addition to local cut stuff.
Yeah, it's actually 2 buildings if you go there. One is the barn. That's when you pull in, the barn is right in front of you. And in there is all of the live edge stuff. There's really big slabs that they've cut. And then to the right of that is the office and the exotics. It's really, really pretty cool place. And hopefully, Jody, I agree. Road trip for sure.
Road trip.
But I typically go in there and I leave there with my trunk full of wood, and my wife gets really upset because I end up with really filling the garage with stuff. But they sell all the commercial type of wood you would expect that are U.S. woods, and then they also import a lot of stuff that you can buy. And they used to have a lot of burls. They're cutting back on that now, not because of the cost, but you used to be able to come right into the showroom and they had a lot of burls up in front. But now their specialty is slabs, so you can get slabs from anywhere from 2 feet, like I said, to 20-something feet. And then the cutoffs are generally 8/4, 12/4, 16/4, which you can cut into turning squares and stuff pretty easily. It's definitely worth the trip.
Bev, they usually have a real good selection of canary wood.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm liking canary.
Yeah, it's fun to turn. It smells nice.
Yeah. Nice.
Let me know next time you go.
Cool beans. So that's everything I had for tonight. Anybody else want to ask any questions?
Yeah, Kevin, can I show you something, Kevin? A project?
Absolutely. Go for
Okay.
it.
This is something I
Hold on.
tried out here. This is just the start of a tree, which was fashioned from old oak flooring. And I didn't know what to do with it for a while. So I just set it aside and I started watering it. After watering it for 2 weeks, I come out with this. There is a part on the top that is turned. That's the only part.
That's so cool.
That's my Christmas tree.
Good job, Jack.
Only
Nice
you
job,
could do
Jack.
that, Jack.
Very nice, Jack.
Just
That's
something different.
awesome.
Excellent.
Just something
Jack.
different.
So if I spray my wood pile down in my garage, with
Beautiful.
clothes, am I going to end up with all those kisses or what here? You know?
Possible.
That's cool. Nice job. I love it.
Thanks. Just something different. Yep. Thanks.
Very good.
Okay.
Hey, Kevin,
Yes.
during the meeting, I kept busy painting
Hang
on my
on.
desk. Can you see it?
Hang on. I'm trying to get the spot.
Snowman.
Hold on. All right, hold on, Pete. I'm getting you.
That's Pete Snowman.
Yeah, there we go.
Ah,
During the meeting, that's what I was doing. I was painting it.
Oh, that's cool.
Age.
Did you carve that?
Yeah. There's a ball of
Super.
carved. It moves around.
Love it. Love it.
So if you
So
notice me
cute.
looking the other way during the meeting, what I was doing, I was painting it.
That's pretty cool. Nice job.
it's nice. Cute, Pete.
Beautiful, Pete, beautiful.
Nice work. Okay, so let me swing this back to me. I guess I'm going to be in the spotlight for a little bit. Any other thoughts, questions, anything that's come up? Questions, ideas, suggestions? I had promised a couple people. Susan, are you still with us? Susan, yes. Unmute yourself, Susan, if you will.
Yes.
You had asked me about the ability to provide calendaring for events and stuff. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
No.
No.
I was just curious. I was just really curious as far as events that may pop up on Facebook, if the group is interested in us sharing it via the website or through email.
Thoughts, comments, anybody?
What kind of events?
So this weekend there is an event with 6 turners, 2 from England, 2 from the US, and 2 from somewhere else. It looks like
The record power thing that they're gonna make the trees?
no, I think, hold on one second. Oh, yeah, they have Christmas trees, snowmen, a platter with decoration rims, a square plate with beaded foot and inlay, small bud vases. One person will discuss why he likes to turn from wet wood. And then there is someone that uses rubber stamps to decorate her items. So I think it's $20 to sign up. It's on December 12th. And I think it's 12 p.m. Eastern time. But I can send out the information in an email to everybody if anybody's interested.
Cool. So reason, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but one of the reasons why I wanted to really bring this about, we're not getting a lot of usage out of the website. And one of the things that the website can do is it can do either calendaring or forums. Susan, I thought you had a good idea of being able to put the word out. The way we use Google, the groups, the website also has a similar thing. And Norm, you're probably getting the AAW digest every day that I get for the club presidents, the executive president stuff.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. What that basically is, our website can do the same thing. So let's say if you opened up a forum and you want to have a forum that's for coming events, for instance, and if you should find something that would be of interest, we have the ability, you can go up to the website, you can log in, you can go to that forum, which I can open, put one up there, or you can open it yourself even, but I'll probably put one. And then if you go into your personal profile for yourself, there's a notices button where you can actually select when you want to be notified, and you can select that forum. You can take and go through it. Let me see if I can show you real quick. And you can actually take and be able to have the forum be able to, you can tell me how often I go here because I'm actually in here all the time. And it gives you the ability to have you get a notification in your profile. Like if I go to my profile, and in my profile, there's a thing in here where you can actually go where it says, your preferences for forums. If you click that, and then you can ask for send any forum messages to me via email. You can say whether you want how you want it. I have it sent to me every day, and then I can either have subject only, or I can have an immediate delivery, like what Google Groups does, or I can do full messages. So, like if we had a forum up on the website that was for calendar events coming up, or the same way we're using Google Groups right now, you can literally do the same thing on the website. And all it means is that when you go into one of the member in the member area in a forum, so like if you go to any forum, and let's say videos, let's do finishing forum, for instance. If you had this, you were subscribed to it, and you can actually put yourself in by subscribing. You can add your preferences, because you can put your forum preferences. You can add yourself to it. And then if anyone posts an email in here, depending on whether you have it sent to you immediately or you have it sent at the end of the day, you can see whatever was posted in that forum just the same way we have with Google Groups. And quite honestly, this is how I expected we were going to replace the Google Groups as we kept on going, since we're paying for the website, so that we could actually have people be able to do this like we do at Google. And then you could choose in your profile whether you're going to have it sent to you immediately when somebody posts it, or as the other thing is to be able to have that it aggregates it up and it sends you once a day or once a week, or you get to pick that. And it's a pretty powerful way to be able to do that. Did you guys see when I was just sharing my screen? I hope no, right?
No.
No.
Crap. Okay, so let me do it real quick again. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
I'm so sorry. So if you go up in here and you pick your profile, so it brings up my profile. You can see all the choices here. And everybody has one of these. This is also where you can reset your username and password. You can generate a new photo album. You can do all that stuff up here. But down here in forums, general forum preferences, if you select that, it brings up another screen where it gives you the ability to have your stuff emailed to you. Here I have my email where it sends to me, my Gmail account, or I can select another email address. And then I can select how I want to see those messages. So in my case, I have them set up so it sends me a daily digest with the subject only, or I can go in here and I can pick an immediate, as soon as somebody posts, give it to me, or I can give a digest where it gives me the whole entire message once a day with a subject only. You get to pick this. So if you think of the way Google Groups works, our website does the same thing. And you can actually have yourself, we can set up forums like we have already. I have forums set up already for a lot of different things like pen turning I have in here. I have forums for videos. This is where I post our videos, off-center turning, beads of courage, segmented turning. We have the ability to start using this. And if you look at the dates on here, look at how little anybody's using this. 5/7, 4/14, 3/14, 5/7, 6/12. I mean, the latest one in here is me posting the video of last month's meeting. So people aren't using these, but we could be able to use this instead of Google Groups. So Susan, I thought it was a great idea, what you talked about. And one of the things we could do is we could set up, I have here, for instance, a craft show news. There's no craft shows now, so that's kind of dead. But I had originally set it up so that we could take, and anybody that learned of a craft show or something that was out there, you could actually post it here, and then you can take and have all of the information about it. Well, unfortunately, Monmouth County Fair was, killed because of COVID, but we have the ability to do these all within ourselves and be able to notify everybody. And then in your profile, you have the ability to figure out how often you're going to be notified. So the a couple people have been hit. This is only for paid members. And if you've paid, you see the member menu when you come in. If you haven't paid, you get the guest menu, which doesn't have the member menu available. But the member menu, I think the only one that's really used it a lot so far has been Chris, because we actually have the ability to do blogs where you can do different workshops, what's going on, multi-access. There's a number of things. Chris was doing quite a few of them, where we can set up blogs. We can set up a lot of things. We have the tools. with the website, I can make this do whatever you want it to do. And I thought the calendar idea was a good place to start because we have an event calendar that's up here, but only I can post things to the calendar, or there's 2 or 3 other people as well. But generally, a forum where if you saw, hey, Record's having another thing, put it up there. And then if you had your profile set up so that you would get notified, it would be just as powerful as the Google Groups is. And I'd really like to be able to take and move from Google Groups to the website, but it's a little slow in the process. Does that bring up any hints or ideas? Does that help?
Yes.
Cool. So I think that was the end of what I had. Susan, I thought that was a great idea. I think we can do it either in the Google Groups or forums, but it would be nice to know if somebody picks up an event like that so everybody else can hear about it. It's not a bad thing. I think it's a good way to communicate.
Okay.
Anybody else? Otherwise, I'm going to call the meeting to a close. Anybody? So I wish everybody a happy Hanukkah, a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, because we won't be speaking until the New Year. Stay healthy, stay well. And if you have anything that you want to discuss then, let me know. Tom, I saw the question regarding elections. We're going to be getting to those probably next month in a little different format because we're kind of trying to figure stuff out with COVID and whether I'm going to stay or not and what's happening. So we're going to talk about that on a board meeting, and then we'll be putting it out. I apologize that it's been delayed from the meeting, but I don't think that it's so rock solid how to be this smooth. Unless Ray, you want to be president again here?
No, I just want to say something though, if that's okay.
Yeah.
I just think you did a great job this whole year. It's been a whole year, and with everything involved, COVID just changed the whole way we did everything, and you did an outstanding job. I just want to say thank you.
And the website. And the
website, everything. Yeah.
Yes.
Well done.
Thank you.
Bravo, bravo, bravo.
Thank you. I really
Happy 2021 to everyone.
Yeah.
Happy New Year.
Hopefully it'll be a better next year where we can actually, share some fresh baked muffins and some popcorn together. So thank you, everyone. Have a great holiday. Please be careful, stay healthy. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you next month. And remember, it's not our normal monthly meeting. I will send out some stuff so that everybody knows, but it'll be Monday, January 25th at 7 o'clock. All right.
You got it.
Happy holiday and happy New Year, everybody.
Take care, everyone.
Happy New Year, Merry Christmas,
Stay safe.
Happy holidays.
Happy holiday.
Yep.
Take care, everybody.